Hello everyone, Glenn Jones here, event coverage coordinator for StarCityGames.com, and I'm here with Shaheen Soorani, Control Master and Invitational competitor. We're going to talk about his standard deck, which if you've been following his Walkers Twitter account, or his articles, Twitter account, etc., you'd know is Esper Planeswalkers.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a pretty traditional setup based on your articles, and let's just start by talking about how Esper has been successful over the last 2 weekends, with Massachusetts and Ohio both being, their opens both being won by Esper decks.
Right. I think like you can go a different angle with Esper. I mean, the version he ran with Solar Flare still has all the components that make it the best deck against Delver. I mean, cards like Lingering Souls is in all the versions of Esper, and that's a great card. The massive Wrath effects, he has a little bit less than I do, and that's where I think my list shines a little bit more, because this is the ability just to Wrath turn after turn with cards like, you know, the Days, Terminus, and the Gideons are pretty good. But yeah, I think Esper has all the tools needed to beat Delver, especially any creature-based deck. You can build a control deck to have a great game against them. So.
Right. So the same basic engine of the decks is the same in how you use removal to get to a late game, but you're using Planeswalkers, whereas they use like Sun Titan Phantasmal Image to basically put the nail in the coffin. Why do you like the Planeswalkers better?
Planeswalkers against Delver aren't as good as the Phantasmal Image Sun Titan. I think they're better against everything else. I think they're better against red-green. I mean, Phantasmal Imaging a Geist is pretty cool and buys time, but Lingering Souls buys you equal amount of time. And Sun Titan, it's sometimes you just really can't get through. And I think Sword of War and Peace is a card that they're very susceptible to. And then where my list has cards like Sorin, cards like Liliana, cards like Gideon that allow you to have much more protection against them. They have some of them lists splashed around with Planeswalkers, but they don't nearly have as much Planeswalker fallback as I do. Also, Consecrated Sphinx at the end of the curve is much safer than the Sun Titan is for that same reason. The blue creature is just pretty much impossible to get through game one.
Okay. Well, let's talk about one of the hardest parts of building a control deck, which is balancing all of your things. Like, you have to get card drawing, you have to get answers, you have to get threats. So let's go through those. First off, you decided to run 3 Think Twice and 2 Forbidden Alchemy, and these are both known as like really powerful card drawing effects in this format. So why did you decide on this particular split?
I mean, every control player likes Forbidden Alchemy better. The ability just to get to the card you want while dropping a bunch of Lingering Souls in the graveyard. But Think Twice is a necessary evil to make land drops, and since I'm not a big Ponder guy, I mean, I'm not probably never going to play the card. Think Twice is the next option up from producing card advantage. So Think Twicing, and even when you're staggering a little bit and you have to flash it back, Day of Judgment is the ability to clear the board for you, and you might take a beating before that, but Think Twice is not, I think it was slow at some points, but in this format you have time to do it.
And it feels like your build has a lot more basics than most over here, where you're eschewing some of the Scars lands to make sure you make your drops, and you've got just plenty of basic lands to go with those Evolving Wilds. So do you think that like helps you catch up in those situations generally?
Right. I see Solar Flare, like the guy who won last week. I mean, he said that he crushed Delver nonstop, which is good, and that just means his land drops he must have been fortunate. Where I think the basic lands, you sacrifice some color split where you have to play less double color or certain things, but it allows you to have that untapped 5th land for that Gideon, that untapped 4th land for that Day of Judgment, untapped 6th land for Terminus. It gives you that opportunity to do that. So,
speaking of Terminus, you decided to go with 2 of those in addition to 3 Day of Judgment. How have you liked Terminus so far? Has it been good?
It's fantastic. If there were brainstorm effects, which are top effects, anything like that, I'd play much more than 2. It's the card that gets you out of the deepest like holes that you can be in. I was in the IQ I played in a couple months ago. Terminus, I had no outs to throw in Sword of War and Peace at that point. I've already wasted my Lilianas, and I was just getting. He had a Kessig Wolf run out. So, and then when you miracle that, and then have the ability with your extra mana just to play the Tammy or the Gideon or something like that, it's pretty good.
Okay.
And even at 6 is fair too as a card.
We've also split up our Planeswalkers. We've got 2 of each.
Right.
So let's just go over some of their strengths and weaknesses, I guess. They overlap with your threats and with your answers, because some of them do both. Right. So why do you like each one? Just give us a quick summary.
Okay. Liliana is the control killer and the ramp killer. Always has been. Unanswered Liliana is just lights out for those decks. Getting worse against the red-green aggro decks. Things with Strand Word Geist is pretty bad against. Blade Splicer's not so good against. But the Delver players are still pretty froggy when it comes to just slamming that Geist on turn 3. They know that we're not going to mana leak it, and Liliana still has that. If they play that turn 3 and then you Liliana turn 3, chances are you're going to win that game. Because now you have the permanent threat out, they have no creature out of the point, and coupled with Despise, it just gets even better.
Sure.
So the next Planeswalker. Sorin makes black creatures. In a Sword of War and Peace world, it's just much better. I see a lot of Delver decks running Sword of Feast and Famine, but Sorin was never good against them anyway. So against red-green, the black creature, it just blocks all day. And it's a constant threat, keeps +1ing itself, and then once it gets to its ultimate, they can't really be safe with their Wolfears, the Silver Hearts, and the Hunt Masters, things they have out. So it's a constant, like I said, threat and answer to that problem. And the Life Link's something to shake a stick at too. And it works well with the Mortapados in the deck as well. Gideon, there's never a standard format where he wasn't good. He deals with creatures, he deals when you're being overwhelmed, buys you necessary time. With Lingering Souls, you can block and preserve them. If they have one creature out and attacked already, that's the best possible play in Magic, is to play Gideon, destroy the tap creature, and then be left with something. The reason why Planeswalkers in general shine over the creature-based one is because they're just nearly impossible to kill in the control mirror. Again, the aggro mirror, your other cheaper cards allow it to be in a one-on-one situation with a threat, or maybe a 2-on-1, and once it deals with that, it's still there where your creature wouldn't be there. Sure. And then Tamiyo, I just fallen in love with that card. It's really good. I draw, it usually concentrates or tidings and then fogs at worst case scenario. I mean, if you attack me with a bunch of spirits from Moorland Haunt and I play it and I draw 4 cards, you have to split your attacks. You have to hit it a little bit, or you're not going to let me draw 4 cards again. So.
Right. Yeah. Have you gotten to Emblem Tamiyo too much?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I say maybe 10% of the time.
10%?
Yeah, it's pretty high. Because, I mean, if Tamiyo resolves, which is the tough thing, and survives a turn, the chance of it being an Emblem is pretty easy because it's just so high in loyalty.
And protects itself so well.
Protects itself, yeah.
All right, so we talked about the Planeswalkers, and now we're going to move on to some of your more interesting choices. You're not running Mana Leaks, which is not super unusual, but definitely like a little. Some people like their Mana Leaks, some people don't, but you do have Despise.
Right.
Do you think Despise sort of is filling that role for your deck?
Despise is the best card for control in Standard nowadays.
Oh, you think?
It's not dead against anything. And, I mean, against the Solar Flare decks, they run 1 of Barrel Rights, if that. So it's not even dead against them. You can hit a Planeswalker, a Karn, a Sun Titan.
Sure.
And leave them with just images that are really worthless in this matchup anyway. Against Red Green, it's obviously made for that matchup. Taking your second string will regress, or first one when you're on the play. A lot of times they'll keep hands that are just Bird, Hunt Master, Burn Spell, Land, and then you just take the Hunt Master, and then the matchup just becomes cakewalk. Delver is now up their creature count with 4 Restoration Angel, and they max out Snapcaster, max out Restoration Angel, max out Geisting Trap, and with all these 4 of creatures that aren't Delver, snagging that is how you beat that deck. With this coupled with any of the cards on the board. Also, I was talking to Oren earlier, and we were talking about even Probe would be good in control, because once you find out their hand, then
you know how to play all of your spells.
Exactly, and then all these expensive spells just become that much better.
Sure.
The weakest card, I'd say, after despising the Planeswalkers, is becoming Sphinx, but it's so good against green, that's why it's sticking with them. So.
Sure. So we've also got the one of Mortar Pod, which obviously has significant synergy with Lingering Souls and to some extent with Sorin also. You're clearly running it, so you think it's been good. What do you like so much about the Mortar Pod?
It almost is like a Planeswalker in the way it's good. It's like it kills something and then stays there for further use. Sure. Obviously, it doesn't have repeated use. It's not as good as a Planeswalker, but it was 2, and I cut 1 for a Tragic Slip. But drawing multiples is kind of bad, so 1 is fine. It allows you to just kill things, put it on your spirit, and that's a 1/2. And being a 1/2 against Moorland Haunt enemy Lingering Souls is huge, and especially in the control mirror. You just leave your guy back, and then you can just sit there, and it's really good. But like I said, you kill a Delver if you're on the play, you kill a Elf or kill a Bird, and then it remains there. It's already strictly better than any removal spell.
Just generates some kind of value for
you. Yeah.
Moving on to your sideboard, a lot of standard stuff with the Celestial Purges, Revoke Resistance, Ratchet Bomb, Curse, Karn. But we've got something interesting with these 3 Memoricides, which people have been on and off about for some time in Standard. Mm-hmm. So why do you think Memoricide's a good choice for this tournament?
All Magic Online. I haven't lost a match where I Memoricide against Wolfrun and just name Primeval Titan, because then the matchup just becomes cake. Like they literally have nothing left in their deck. They have 1 of creature here, 1 of creature here, maybe Inferno Titans, but as you know, control decks don't care about Inferno Titan. They just have thousands of ways to kill it. So once the Primeval Titan's gone, it's just their deck is just reduced to rubble, and that's just how you beat that matchup. It's tough otherwise. Like after cutting mana leaks and not having no counter magic besides the Despise being ish counter kind of, Memoricide allows you to just take their 4 of Primeval Titan and then just leave them with nothing. Like I said, their deck is very spaced out. There's a Karn here, there's a Thrun here, but otherwise they're banking on a miracle. And it's also pretty good against Phantasm and Sun Titan in the mirror match, because you have a lot of dead cards to board out. You got to board out all these removal spells, a couple of the Wrath effects. You got to board out. Sometimes I board out the Oblivion Ring. Sometimes I board out the Despises. So I have a lot of cards I got to take out, and that gives me another card where they bring in Negate, and they feel like they have to counter that. They don't want you to see their hand. They don't want you naming something good that they might be holding on to. So regardless of what player tells you, I've never had a Memoricide not countered if they had the opportunity to do so.
That's reasonable. And last but not least, we've got the one of Praetor's Grasp over here.
Yeah, it was
Very
2.
fun card.
It was 1. It's 0. It's 1. It's 2. The popularity of Control dictates whether it's 2, 1, or 0. Taking their Karn out of their deck, it's very tough to lose a match because it really boils down to Karn. I played against Owen Turnwall. We both were playing blue-black, and he had Drown Yards. I didn't. And me taking his Karn and him not having a Karn just made that match, it looked so lopsided. He drew a million cards off Blue Sun's Zenith. He was milling me for a million, but I had Karn in play, and he just could not deal with it. So it really boils down to a Karn warfare, because Sun Titans aren't going to get there. There's just too many Wrath effects. It's not good against Control. You can't even get through Lingering Souls. So it's like, that's why, again, another reason I don't like Sun Titan. But Praetor's Grasp. And I bring it in against Naya Ramp. If they have an Elshorn in their deck, you take their Elshorn from them.
Oh,
and that's a good way to finish them off, too. You can cast it, any deck that has an Elshorn, any deck that has a Karn, or any deck that has any kind of Titan that I can cast, I can bring Praetor's
So you're mostly using it to generate an additional late-game threat while taking one of theirs away.
Right, especially when they have a one-of late-game threat. And so they don't ever have access to it, and you do. So.
All right, well, Shaheen's on his buys right now, but he's going to enter the fray soon. So good luck, Shaheen.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.